The Story of King Arthur and His Knights by Howard Pyle. Prologue. In ancient days there lived a very noble king named Uther Pendragon, and he became overlord of all of Britain. This king was very greatly aided unto the achievement of the Pendragonship of the realm by the help of two men, who rendered him great assistance in all that he did. One of these men was a certain very powerful enchanter and sometimes prophet known to men as Merlin the Wise, and he gave very good counsel unto Uther Pendragon. The other man was an excellent noble and renowned knight, hight Ulphus, who was thought by many to be the greatest leader in war of any man then alive, and he gave Uther Pendragon aid and advice in battle. So, with the help of Merlin and Sir Ulphus, Uther Pendragon was able to overcome all of his enemies and to become king of the entire realm. After Uther Pendragon had ruled his kingdom for a number of years, he took to wife a certain beautiful and gentle lady, hight Igraine. This noble dame was the widow of Galoy, the Duke of Tintagel, by which prince she had two daughters, one of whom was named Mergaze, and the other Morgana le Fay. And Morgana le Fay was a famous sorceress. These daughters of the queen brought with her to the court of Uther Pendragon after she had married the puissant king. And there Mergaze was wedded to King Urien of Gore, and Morgana le Fay was wedded to King Lot of Orkney. Now after a while, Uther Pendragon and Queen Igraine had a son born unto them, and he was very beautiful and of great size and strength of bone. And whilst the child still lay wrapped in his swaddling clothes and lying in a cradle of gold and ultramarine, Merlin came to Uther Pendragon with the spirit of prophecy strong in him, for such was often the case with him, and, speaking in that spirit of prophecy, he said, Lord, it is given unto me to foresee that thou shalt shortly fall sick of a fever, and that thou shalt maybe die of a violent sweat, that will fall thereon. Now, should such a dolorous thing befall us all, this young child, who is, saith, the hopes of all this realm, will be in very great danger of his life, for many enemies will surely rise up with the design to seize upon him for the sake of his inheritance, and either he will be slain or else he will be held in captivity from which he shall hardly hope to escape. Wherefore I do beseech thee, Lord, that thou wilt permit Sir Ulphus and myself to presently convey the child away unto some place of safe refuge, where he may be hidden in secret until he groweth to manhood, and is able to guard himself from such dangers as may threaten him. When Merlin had made an end of speaking thus, Uther Pendragon made a reply with a very steadfast countenance in this wise: Merlin, so far as my death is concerned, when my time cometh to die, I believe God will give me grace to meet my end with entire cheerfulness. For, says, my lot in that wise no different from that of any other man who hath been ward of a woman. But touching the matter of this young child, if thy prophecy be true, then his danger is very great, and it would be well that he should be conveyed hence to some place of safe harborage as thou dost advise. Wherefore, I pray thee to perform thy will in this affair, bearing in thy heart the consideration that this child is the most precious inheritance which I shall leave upon this land. All this, as was said, Uther Pendragon spake with a great calmness and equanimity of spirit, and Merlin did as he advised, and he and Sir Ulphus conveyed the child away by night, and no one but they wist hither the babe had been taken. And shortly afterwards Uther Pendragon was seized with the sickness as Merlin had foretold, and he died exactly as Merlin had feared that he would die. Wherefore it was very well that the child had been taken to a place of safety. And after Uther Pendragon had departed from this life, it was likewise as Merlin had feared, for all the realm fell into great disorder, for each lesser king contended against his fellows for overlordship, and wicked knights and barons harried the highways as they listed, and there levied toll with great cruelty upon helpless wayfarers. For some such travellers they took prisoners and held for ransom, while others they slew because they had no ransom to pay. So it was a very common sight to see a dead man lying by the roadside, if he should venture to make a journey upon some business or other. Thus it befell that, after a while, all that dolorous land groaned with the trouble they laid upon it. Thus there passed nearly 18 years in such great affliction, and then one day the Archbishop of Canterbury summoned Merlin to him and bespake him in this wise: Merlin, men say that thou art the wisest man in all the world. Canst thou not find some means to heal the distractions of this woeful realm? Bend thou thy wisdom to this matter, and choose thou a king who shall be a fit overlord for us, so that we may enjoy happiness of life once more as we did in the days of Uther Pendragon." Then Merlin lifted up his countenance upon the Archbishop, and spake in this wise: "My lord, the spirit of prophecy that lieth upon me sometimes moveth me now to say that I do perceive that this country is soon to have a king, who shall be wiser and greater and more worthy of praise was even Uther Pendragon. And he shall bring order and peace where there is now disorder and war. Moreover, I may tell you that this king shall be of Uther Pendragon's own full blood royal." To this the Archbishop said, "What thou tellest me, Merlin, is a wonderfully strange thing. But in the spirit of prophecy, canst thou not foretell when this king is to come? And canst thou tell how we shall know him when he appeareth among us? For many lesser kings there are, who would fain to be overlord of this land, and many such there are, who deem themselves fit to rule all the others. How then shall we know the king from those who may proclaim themselves to be the rightful king?" "My lord Archbishop," quoth Merlin, "if I have thy leave to exert my magic, I shall set an adventure which, if any man achieve it, all the world shall straightway know that he is the rightful king and overlord of this realm." And to this the Archbishop said, "Merlin, I bid thee do whatsoever may seem to thee to be right in this affair." And Merlin said, "I will do so." So Merlin caused by magic that a huge marble stone, 4 square, should suddenly appear in an open place before the cathedral door. And upon this block of marble he caused it to be that there should be an anvil, and into the anvil he caused that there should be thrust a great naked sword midway deep of the blade. And this sword was the most wonderful that any man had ever seen, for the blade was of blue steel, and extraordinary bright and glistening, and the hilt was of gold, chased and carved with marvellous cunning, and inlaid with a great number of precious stones, so that it shone with all the wonderful brightness in the sunlight. And about the sword were written these words in letters of gold: "Whoso pulleth out this sword from the anvil, that same is rightwise king born of England." So that a great many people came and gazed upon that sword and marveled at it exceedingly, for its like never before had been beheld upon this earth. Then, when Merlin had accomplished this miracle, he bade the Archbishop to call together all the chief people of that land upon Christmas-tide, and he bade the Archbishop to command that every man should make essay to draw out the sword, for that he who should succeed in drawing it forth out of the anvil should be the right wise King of Britain. So the Archbishop did according as Merlin said, and this was the marvel of the marble stone and the anvil, of which same any one may easily read for himself in that book written a very long while ago by Robert de Boron, which is called Le Roman de Merlin. Now when the mandate of the Lord Archbishop went forth, summoning all of the chief people of the land to assay of the miracle, for indeed it was a miracle to draw forth a sword blade out of an anvil of solid iron, and all the realm became immediately cast into a great ferment, so that each man asked his fellow, "Who shall draw forth the sword, and who shall be our king?" Some of them thought it would be King Lot, and the others thought it would be King Urien of Gore, these being the sons-in-law unto Uther Pendragon. Some of them thought it would be King Leodegrace of Camelot, and others thought it would be King Rhenius of North Wales. Some of them thought it would be this king, and others thought it would be that king, for all the world was divided into different parties who thought according to their liking. Then, as Christmas-tide drew nigh, it presently appeared as though the entire world was winding its way to London town, for the highways and the byways became filled with wayfarers, kings and lords and knights and ladies and esquires and pages and men-at-arms, all betaking their way whether the essay was to be made of that advantage of the sword and the anvil. Every inn and castle was filled so full of travellers that it was a marvel how so many folks could be contained within their compass, and everywhere were tents and pavilions pitched along the wayside for the accommodations of those who could not find shelter within doors. But when the Archbishop beheld the multitudes that were assembling, he said to Merlin, "Indeed, Merlin, It would be a very singular thing if among all these great kings and nobles, noble, honorable lords, we should not find someone worthy of being the king of this realm. Under which the Merlin smiled and said, Marvel not, my lord, if among all those who appear to be so extraordinary worthy, there shall not be found one who is worthy. And marvel not if, among all those who are unknown, there shall arise one who shall prove himself to be entirely worthy. And the archbishop pondered Merlin's words, and so beginneth the story.